Hello everyone, and welcome to your daily dose of your spiritual vitamin. Here with my Bonnie B. For this one, we're going to take up the balance of the story of Abraham, Isaac, Sarah, and the journey to the altar for Isaac. In our story from the last broadcast, we've learned that Isaac was not a baby, the way the Bible tried to make it seem in our traditional teaching of the story of Abraham and Isaac. For in fact, Isaac was a grown-ass man, 37 years old. Isaac ran his mouth. God heard him. God took him up on it. That teaches us one thing going in this thing. Be careful what you say, you just might get it. We also know that Satan goes to and fro seeking whom he may devour, because he said, I've been going to and fro, from east to west, from north to south, seeking who he can devour, seeking who he can persecute. So when the Lord asked Satan, he said, what you want? What you doing here? He said, I've been running around the world. I've been going here and there. I've been checking out a few things, and I noticed that your people, they don't mind calling you when they want something, but they sure ain't knocking at your door when they got what they done wanted. They ain't there no more. And he said, well, what's on your mind? He said, well, Abraham on my mind. Since you gave Abraham Isaac, he ain't seen you since he weaned him. He ain't made no burnt offerings. He ain't came before the throne of grace. He done said, bump you, Lord. Lord said, wait a minute. Go ahead. I know you want to try. Go try my servant, Abraham. So at the close of the last session that we had Abraham, Isaac, and Sarah. Sarah was his mother. Abraham was his father. Isaac was the only child of Sarah. We see Sarah's heartbreaking as he goes on a sojourner with his father. Much like the journey to the cross, but because he was the only son of Abraham. So there's a little parody going on there. And the fact that he's got to make this journey to what's marked to be his death or his sacrifice. So we'll pick up from there, and we will continue the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Sarah. I'm going to recap the last scripture from the last session we're teaching, and we'll go forward from there. We're learning out of the book of Enoch, Jubilees, and Jasher. This is out of the book of Jasher. We're in the chapter is this? We're in the 23rd chapter. We began in the 22nd chapter, the 42nd verse. We are now in the 23rd chapter on the 19th verse. We're going to recap at the 19th verse, which is where we stopped the last broadcast. We'll pick up here and we will go forward into the journey of Isaac's way to the altar. And they still wept together, Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac, and all those who accompanied them on the road wept with them. Helpers. And Sarah afterward turned away from her son, weeping bitterly. And all her men servants and maid servants returned to her to the tent. And Abraham went with Isaac, his son, to bring him up as an offering before the Lord, as he had commanded him. And Abraham took 2 of his young men with him, Ishmael, the son of Agar, and Eliezer, his servant. And they went together with them, and whilst they were walking in the road, The young man spoke these words to themselves. And Ishmael said to Eliezer, now my father Abraham is going with Isaac to bring him up for a burnt offering to the Lord, as he commanded him. Now when he returneth, he will give unto me all that he possesses to inherit after him, for I am his firstborn. So this is Ishmael talking. Now when he returned, okay, and Eliezer answered Ishmael and said, surely Abraham did cast thee away with thy mother. So he's telling him, wait a minute, hold on. Didn't Abraham make you leave when you was little with your mama? And Eliezer answered Ishmael and said, surely Abraham did cast thee away with thy mother, and swear that thou shouldst not inherit anything of all he possesses. And to whom will he give all that he has, with his all his treasures, but unto me his servant, who has been faithful in his house, and who has served him night and day, and who has done all that he desired? Me. To me he will bequeath on his death, all that he possesses. So Ishmael and Abraham's servant on the road to taking Isaac to the altar are having a conversation about Isaac being dead and who gonna get the possessions. The servant and Ishmael are having this conversation. Y'all got to keep up. Okay? Let's keep it going. And whilst Abraham was proceeding with his son Isaac along the road, Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man. Stop there for a second. Satan came and disguised himself while Abraham is on the road to take Isaac for sacrifice. Satan is coming to Abraham in the form of an old man that he has just seen on this road while they are journeying to the altar of sacrifice. Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of contrite spirit, and he approached Abraham and said to him, now this is Satan talking, art thou silly or brutish, that thou goest to do this thing this day to thine only son? So Satan is trying to get in his head now and cause him not to go. Hear me clearly. Satan comes in the form of an old man to talk to to talk to Abraham and try and convince Abraham not to sacrifice Isaac. This is how Satan operates in our everyday life. Satan will come in another form to convince you that what you're doing is not the right thing. He will come to trick you out of following through what God has told you to do. That's why he's coming, to deceive you. And he says, Satan appeared to be humble with a contrite spirit. He appeared to be humble with a contrite spirit, which tells you it was just an appearance. Because underneath that humbleness with that contrite spirit was the deceiver, coming in like the snake, slithering on in. To do what? Change your mind about what you're doing. You sure you want to do that? Seemed like a dumb idea to me. I wouldn't do that. Why you want to do that? That's that snake talking. That's the snake. Let's continue our story. So let's get back to who Satan was so we can remember. Satan came and appeared to Abraham in the figure of a very aged man, humble and of a contrite spirit. And he approached Abraham, and he said to him, Art thou silly or brutish, that thou goest to do this thing this day to thine only son? For God gave thee a son in thy later days, in thy old age, and wilt thou go and slaughter him this day because he committed no violence? And wilt thou cast the soul of thine only son to perish from the earth? So now he's appealing to his mortality. This is your only son. You didn't get him till you got old. Now you want to kill him? Cause him to perish from the earth? He won't be with you anymore. Dost thou not know and understand that this thing cannot be from the Lord? So now he is attacking the fact that God told him to go do this, and causing him to doubt that he heard God's voice. He's saying, your God told you to go do this? Surely that wasn't your God. Your God would never have you go do something like this. So see, he plays two ends against the middle. First he tells God Abraham won't sacrifice him. Then he tells Abraham God wouldn't tell you to sacrifice him. This is how Satan works in your life. And you need to be aware that he plays two ends against the middle. That's a Satan tactic. And you need to be aware that he operates this way in your everyday life. Two ends against the middle. Children do it all the time. Go ask mommy, go ask daddy. Two ends against the middle. For the Lord cannot do unto man such evil upon the earth to say to him, go slaughter thy child. See? Satan giving him some more lies. Like he did Eve. And Abraham heard this and knew that it was the word of Satan, who endeavored to draw him aside from the way of the Lord. But Abraham would not hearken to the voice of Satan. And Abraham rebuked him so that he went away. Did you catch that? Abraham rebuked him. He recognized that this was the voice of Satan. And so often, that's what I'm trying to say about sins and things that you practice on a daily basis. If you don't hearken to the voice of God, then you wind up hearkening to the voice of Satan. You're going to listen to one of them, and Satan's coming, slithering right on in there. You sure God told you to do that? Surely God wouldn't tell you to do it that way. Surely God wouldn't tell you to do that. Surely God wouldn't make you wait. Surely God wouldn't put you on hold. That can't be of God. God would never tell you to go there. That can't be of God. God would never tell you to do that. And that's why you need to understand whose you are. And Satan returned and came to Isaac, and he appeared unto Isaac in the figure of a young man, comely and well favored. See, so the first one he tried was Abraham. Now you're going to go mess with the sacrifice. See, because Satan's job is to stop the plan of God. That's the job. And this is how he operates. I need you to see him slithering into these situations. How he come up and try to convince them. Oh, God wouldn't tell you to do that. No, not God. This is surely not of God. Then he had you over there scratching your head. And that's only when you don't know the voice of God. For when you know the voice of God, you will not hearken to the voice of Satan, but you will rebuke him. Let's see what happens next as he approaches Isaac. So we know what happened with Abraham. This is what traditional Bible doesn't talk about. This is not in the traditional Bible. These details are not there. The story that is there leads you to believe that Abraham was a little boy. That Isaac was a little boy. And he was a child that was being sacrificed. But that is not the truth. The truth of the matter is, Isaac was a grown man. And Abraham had to sacrifice his only son, who was an adult. He was 37 years old. Okay? So, now it's Isaac's turn. So we know that he has come and he has now appeared to Isaac as a young man, favorable and comely, handsome man. And he approached Isaac and said unto him, Dost thou not know and understand that thy old silly father bringeth thee to the slaughter this day for naught? So now he says to Isaac, do you know your dad bringing you up here to get killed off for nothing? Now therefore, my son, do not listen nor attend to him, for he is a silly old man. Let not thy precious soul and beautiful figure be lost from the earth. So now he's appealing to his vanity. And Isaac heard this and said unto Abraham, Hast thou heard, my father, that which this man has spoken? Even thus has he spoken? And Abraham answered his son Isaac and said to him, Take heed of them that do not listen to his words, nor attend to him. For he is Satan, endeavoring to draw us aside this day from the commands of God. See, Abraham knew that Satan was a shapeshifter. Abraham knew that Satan was going to try him on that road. Abraham knew how Satan was going to try to come. And no matter which way he came, Satan was trying to be clever, but he wasn't clever enough. For Abraham had a relationship with God, and Abraham knew the voice of God. So Satan couldn't come at him in any kind of way, which is the reason why he came in the forms that he came. As the old man to try to appeal to Abraham, then as a young man trying to appeal to Isaac. because he needed dissension to take place on that road in order for the plan of God not to be recognized, in order for God not to have his way and for God's will not to be done. That was the job of the adversary, to test both parties on that journey. See what I'm saying? God will test you, and whomever he sends you on a journey with is going to get tested too. You ain't just the only one being tested. God is testing to see, where are you? Are you true to your word? Just like he tested Abraham. I'm going to test you. I'm going to allow you to be tested. I'm going to allow the fire to come up against you. I'm going to allow the sentinel to come on and trick you. And see if you got enough sense to know you're being tricked. And he did. Abraham did. And Abraham still rebuked Satan. And Satan went from them, and seeing he could not prevail over them, he hid himself from them, and he went and passed before them in the road. And he transformed himself into a large brook of water in the road. That's the third trial. It's the third test. First test, he came up against Abraham as an old man. Second test, he came up against Isaac as a young man. So he done tried people. Now he gonna try situations. So now he is a brook. He went ahead of Abraham and Isaac and the men that was with him, Ishmael and Ezra. That's his name. Eliezer. Ishmael and Eliezer. So he went up on ahead of them. And it says, he went past before them in the road, and he transformed himself. So we know Satan is a transformer and a Decepticon. He's a Decepticon transformer. You know anything about Transformers, and you know what a Decepticon is. And it says he transformed himself to a large brook of water in the road. And Abraham and Isaac and his 2 young men reached that place, and they saw a brook large and powerful as the mighty waters. So now he's going to use weather elements to come up against them. And they entered the brook and passed through it, and the waters of the first reached their legs. And they went deeper in the brook, and the waters reached up to their neck. And they were all terrified on account of the water. And whilst they were going over the brook, Abraham recognized that place, and he knew that there was no water there before. Abraham had been there before, and God brought back the fact of his recognition, his consciousness and awareness that there was no brook here. I have been here before, and the last time I came here, there was no brook here. And Abraham said to his son Isaac, I know this place in which there was no brook nor water. Now, therefore, it is this Satan who does all this to us. He recognized the enemy to draw us aside this day from the command of God. The theme, Satan is trying to block the plan of God. That's why he throws shit in the path. All the way on your path. He threw in another trick, another person, another thing, another situation. Constantly throwing stuff on your path. Because he wants to draw us aside this day from the commands of God. That's why he does this. That's why he sends that harlot to you. That's why he sends all them tricks to you. That's why he sends them sneaky backdoor plans to you. That's why he sends in your mind, let's get away with this. Or let's go do that. Or don't you want to try this? You know we can get away with that. You know we can get away with this. Let's go do that. Let's go. And you know all of these things are contrary to what you know is the right thing. You know they all wrong. That don't mean Satan ain't coming in. Yeah, you were shot at it. Anyway. Yeah, man, you see them tricks over there? Yeah, man, we can get them. But what he ain't telling you is one of them hiding a firecracker. Oh, you know she look good. Yeah, I want that one right there. That bitch hotter than the 4th of July. But you don't know that. See, that's the part of the trick Satan ain't telling you. All you do is see it. And in the back of your mind, back here, in your brain, the Spirit's saying, everything good, look good, ain't good for you. Sure you want to do that? You know the enemy got tricks out here. You sure you want to play with them kids? Tricks is for kids. You know we got a consequence for this. Are we really trying to do this consequence? Your spirit is talking to you. And you're going to do one or two things. Listen or ignore. You're either going to listen to what the trick is and be enticed, or you're going to ignore it, rebuke it, and go with what God told you to do. Those are the only two choices. I said, there is no in the middle. That's why it's who you with. Whose side you standing on. Whose side you standing on. So, for the sake of this story, I'm going to stop right here. And we're not even through the story yet. We are just at the phase where Abraham has recognized that there was no brook on this path. And he has recognized that Satan has yet again come up against them in order to block them from doing that God has commanded. So, we're going to stop this story right here for story time. And we will come back and continue the story of Abraham and Isaac on the road to the altar. Be blessed, my beloved. If you like my vibe, you know what I say, subscribe. And if you don't, it's cool, because I still will bid you adieu. Be blessed, my beloved. Till it's time to come back. Visit me here for your daily dose of vitamin, spiritual dose from Vitamin.